It's 7:45 on this Friday morning. You're very welcome along to OTBAM. A big show coming up for you throughout the course of the next hour and a half or so. We're going to be chatting about Black Friday. It is Black Friday, of course. If you're getting your Christmas presents, any of your Christmas shopping done, and you're ahead of the game, today's the day to do it. Neil Treacy is with me in the studio. Jess Kelly will be with us later on to chat a little bit about that. Football and rugby, I should say, dominating proceedings today, and the managerial vacancies. We should chat briefly, though, about Black Friday. I'm not sure, are you a guy who gets your Christmas shopping done early?
I'm definitely not, no.
Neither am I.
I don't have too much. We do a little draw at home, so that automatically eliminates. You're buying one present instead of 4 or 5.
That's the best idea ever.
It's perfect.
It's just
and you spend maybe a little bit more money than you normally would on the 4 or 5 of them. Gets one person something good instead of getting 4 or 5 people. The usual links. Fucking. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, the easy thing is, if you've got a number of sports fans in the family, which I'm sure a lot of people watching this morning will.
You're giving everyone books this year.
Exactly, just give me books. I may or may not be judging a sports book competition that allowed me to get all the books for free, and I'm definitely not re-gifting them to my family and friends this year, but I may do exactly that. What book would you gift this year if you had to gift one, actually? That's
of the new ones, I've read Andy Lee's one, thought it was great. I would definitely give that to someone that I rate dearly as a friend. I wouldn't just give it to anyone, I would get. No, that was a very good one. Really looking forward to. I haven't read The Hurlers yet. That's one I'm really looking forward to reading, getting sunk into. And I've read Mike Ross's book, which also I've very much enjoyed. Thought it was a really good read.
Yeah.
Other than that, not too much anything new this year.
No,
another one actually I'm reading. I've just started is Sevens Heaven from Ben Ryan. He's the Fiji Sevens coach who won the Olympic medal with them.
It's nominated for the UK.
It's meant to be really, really good. I've literally brought it into work this morning, and I'm going to start it on the bus home.
Right, that is a good shout, actually. I must give that a look myself. Some good tips there. Let us know, what are you buying? It is Black Friday. Is it wearables? I don't know. I don't even know anything, the first thing about wearables, which one to get. If you've got any questions about which one to get for a family member, for a friend or whatever, Jess Kelly will be up a little bit later on to tell us about that. Here's what else is coming up on the show today. Premier League football, it is back. The club action on the scene with Spurs against Chelsea, the game of the weekend. Daniel Harris will join us in about 15 minutes' time. The Tide 5, as you can see, Neil Treacy is with us in studio. The Tide 5 making its comeback this week. We're going to get stuck in to the Ireland scrum. Talk about Joe Schmidt's future as well. Talk a little bit about the Ireland team name for the USA tomorrow, and talk about England against Australia. Who is the third best team in world rugby at the moment? We'll ask Neil that a little bit later on. The breakfast menu is coming up later than usual at 8:45. And as I say, it's technology at 9:05. It's Jess Kelly going to join us in studio. Before all that, it's time for the back pages.
OTBAM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie. Championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
We'll start with the Irish Independent this morning, and with pretty much all the newspapers today, they're either leading with Stephen Kenny or Mick McCarthy coming in as Ireland boss, or they're leading with Joe Schmidt. For the Irish Independent, it's McCarthy odds on, but Kenny in the hunt. Klinsmann joining the list of outsiders to replace O'Neill. You've also got Catstar Fennelly hits back over Wild Geese complaining, and emotional Schmidt says he has not yet made up his mind on his future. I think he's going to make up his mind for sure this weekend, says Rory O'Connor. That sub-headline on Dan MacDonald's story on the back of the Irish Independent is something that just leaps off the page, and it's been reported elsewhere as well this morning that Klinsmann, Jurgen Klinsmann, has joined the list of outsiders to be a potential Ireland manager. Now, I know I'm supporting...
I think everyone at this stage is an outsider.
Well, it's true.
Like, it's looking fairly certain, would you think?
Fairly certain. It does seem that
there'd have to be a fairly big hiccup, I would say, in negotiations.
There would have to be. It does seem, though, that Stephen Kenny... I wouldn't call Stephen Kenny an outsider. As you can see, I'll actually just show the front page of the Irish Examiner sports section. Preparing for the handover, FAI chiefs to meet McCarthy and Kenny over the weekend. So it had been suggested yesterday that Mick McCarthy was going to be the man who was appointed, but it seems that Stephen Kenny is going to get a fair crack of the whip. The one thing I don't understand is, what's the big hurry here? Well, we know why the big hurry is. It's because they want somebody in tow for Sunday week.
They want to have someone to be paraded around for Sunday week, when the draw is made and when all the UEFA delegates are in Dublin, isn't it?
Yeah, but for the sake of optics, should they not just chill out for a little bit, just try and figure out what is the best for the FAI here, what is the best for the future of Ireland football, and that means getting your head coach and your full ticket in place and being completely satisfied with that, and also completely satisfied with whoever the under-21 manager is. This is our tweet yesterday. It's believed negotiations between Mick McCarthy and the FAI over the vacant Republic of Ireland manager's job could successfully conclude over the weekend. McCarthy is in line to assume the position for a second time. What do you think of the Mick McCarthy appointment, if it does come out to be true?
I absolutely love Mick McCarthy. I'm just not 100% certain, is this the right time? I think maybe even just a year or so ago, when everyone was thinking, was Martin O'Neill going to go after the playoff defeat to Denmark? Then at that time I was kind of thinking, you know what, Mick McCarthy would be great. But as the year has gone on, you'd really just love to see the playbook torn up. Let's just go for someone like Stephen Kenny. You know, it could turn out to be a complete disaster, but at the same time, just take the chance on it. And, you know, I think it's the right time when, you know, there's a squad of players coming in. Like, it's a real transitional phase, as it is for Ireland. You may as well give someone the opportunity to come in and try it out with, you know, an inexperienced group of players, and, you know, let everyone start from the bottom together.
Yeah, there were 125 replies to that tweet. Varying opinions on Mick McCarthy. Killian Ginnity agrees with you. He says, why Mick McCarthy? Why go backwards? Stephen Kenny is the one with the potential. And the same people who are criticising his lack of experience at a top level would take Michael O'Neill without question, even though he had less experience at the same level. #Koibig. It's true what he says. I would be of the opinion that if you're going to go for Mick McCarthy, you may as well try and get Jurgen Klinsmann. Like, as outlandish as that is, it's a short-term fix, and at least we get the excitement and the glamour.
I think it's it's probably a short-term appointment, and it's no disrespect to Mick McCarthy, I think, but...
Well, I've just compared him to Jurgen Klinsmann, so it's the biggest compliment you can possibly give.
I just would love to see them kind of just go outside the box and just give it a lash. Like Stephen Kenny, you know, I don't think at this stage there is an enormous amount of it. Obviously, they're just hell-bent. They have to qualify for Euro 2020. Having a few games in Dublin, it would just be a complete disaster, I think, FAI-wise, if they weren't there at the party themselves. And I think that's probably why they're hell-bent on getting someone with more experience, maybe. Yeah,
the thing is, Stephen Kenny has been on record with the Dundalk Democrat this week saying that if he had the option of managing Real Madrid or Barcelona or Ireland, he'd pick Ireland because as an Irishman, that's his dream.
And you love to see a quote like that.
He's not exactly playing hard to get here.
Exactly, yeah.
He's putting his cards on the table, very much so, and I just think the FAI, fair enough if the FAI interview him and think, you know, this is not the right appointment for us at this moment. I would respectfully disagree with that, even though I wouldn't be privy to those negotiations, but at least give him a fair crack of the whip. At least just sit down with him and talk to him about his plans, not just for the next 2 years in terms of getting us to Euro 2020, which I'm sure will be part of his thought process in terms of his success plan, but also his plans beyond that. How are we going to qualify for Qatar? How are we going to qualify for Canada, USA, Mexico? Talk to us about that. And I would say he's the man for the next 8 years to try and look into a plan like that.
Yeah, and I think what maybe some people are probably a little bit uneasy about is just how quickly they probably have jumped in on this, you know, let's speak to Mick McCarthy straight away. It's been less than 48 hours now that Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane were gone, and it looks like we're pretty close to having a new manager named. As you said earlier, why the rush? We know what the rush is because they wanted for Sunday week when the UEFA delegates come to town, but, you know, take a couple of weeks. We're not even talking take a few months and, you know, stall things out. Take 2 weeks to think through your options.
Yeah, back to the Times this morning is race hotting up for Kelly and McCarthy, says Gary Doyle, while Schmidt will reveal decision on Monday, says the back of the Times Ireland edition. And then the Irish Times leads with Joe Schmidt. It's Jerry Thornley's story saying that all signs suggest Schmidt will leave after World Cup. Thornley's always kind of... his compass has always been pretty close to accurate when it comes to either team news or Joe Schmidt stories or things like that. He's obviously, I don't think he's done too many newspaper exclusives recently. The last one I remember is with Jerry Thornley on a Saturday edition of the Irish Times. So to see that headline under his byline to say all signs suggest Schmidt will leave after the World Cup, I'm worried.
Yeah, I think a lot of, even just things like body language and the way he's saying things and the way he's phrasing things, you just kind of get the feeling that he probably is leaning towards the side of leaving after the World Cup. And look, I just think regardless what decision he's making, it is absolutely imperative that he's making it at this time. Because even if he says, you know what, I'm going, you get 12 months to deal with it. You know, because worst case scenario, you know, the other side of it is that if he was leaving this for a while, all through the Six Nations, every single week, he's probably being asked, Joe, what are you going to do after the World Cup? What are you going to do after the World Cup? Are you going to go back to New Zealand? Are you going to sign a new contract? At least now for the next year, everyone knows what way, you know, what is going to be happening after the World Cup. There's a succession plan you can put in place, and it just eliminates the question for the next few months.
It's true. In fairness, the IRFU have got very good at nipping things in the bud over the last couple of years. When it came to, 2015-16, when there was tons of players being linked with moves abroad at the time, they've kind of got the hang of quelling those stories immediately and getting them to put pen to paper straight away and not letting these things get out of hand.
And if they're not signing a contract, put it out there straight away. Yeah, deal with it early. So yeah, they're doing quite well in that. The Mirror today, I don't know, can we look at it's dealing with both Mick McCarthy and Joe Schmidt coming and going. Talks planned with Big Mick soon as FAI aim for quick appointment, and family discussion for Schmidt will determine where his future lies after Japan World Cup. Another newspaper at the moment is the Irish Daily Star this morning. Smartin O'Neill, ex-boss fury at Doherty as Horan adds to criticism of old regime. That comes as Martin O'Neill seems to be pretty unhappy with the quotes Matt Doherty gave about the training methods of Martin O'Neill over the last couple of years that Doherty would have seen anyway in the last few months in particular. And also Conor Horan has kind of backed up on it, saying that, O'Neill, when he came in at the start, he probably had all these experienced players who didn't need the detailed training and the tactical stuff that maybe the younger lads need now when they're not as used to each other,
Yeah, Conor Horan speaking on the Keith Andrews show yesterday. You can watch that back on youtube.com/offtheball.
Also as well, it's all yours, Mick, is the back page headline on the Irish Daily Mail. McCarthy on the brink of return as FAI begin to prepare to begin talks. So this seems to be the story that most papers have. And also, Schmidt, I'm in turmoil over my Ireland future. Joe Schmidt admits he's agonising over whether to stay on as Ireland head coach and wants to take a deep breath before announcing his plans early next week. So I think regardless of what happens over the weekend in the USA game, it's an afterthought a little bit at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, completely it is. The idea, though, of this USA game being a dead rubber or being kind of closer to what people would like to say is an unimportant international test match, I just don't think that pertains to any sort of level of truth at the moment, because every time you watch this Ireland team, particularly when it comes to the second string team or the B team, if you want to say that, it's actually a completely different level of intrigue. You want to see ordinarily, say, like, I know he's not starting tomorrow, but the likes of Ross Byrne, how would he do when he came on? If he gets his first full cap for Ireland, that'll be an intriguing game. All those different possibilities that the Ireland team brings just means that every single international test match at the moment is an important one.
A year out from a World Cup, it doesn't really matter what the opponent is. I don't think, like, every game has some level of intrigue in it, and there are things you want to learn about. Like, it doesn't even have to be about the scoreline itself or who scores the tries. It's just maybe it's about like seeing how a 10-12 combination works or a 12-13 combination. See how someone does, like, see how Will Addison does at full back this week, having done so well in the centre in his first couple of games for Ireland. Having another look at Tyg Byrne, who's missed out on the bigger games despite playing unbelievable for Munster. Just seeing how he develops again in a green shirt. Also seeing your backup guys in the front. We know how good Tyg Furlong is, but how much have we seen of someone like Andrew Porter in the front row? Bear in mind, as we've often said last year when we were talking about him, he only transitioned to a tight head 2 years ago. He was playing loose head up until after under-21 rugby. So, like, a year out from a World Cup, there are so many different things to look at in a match, as opposed to just, are we going to win it? And, maybe last week against the All Blacks, it was absolutely about winning it, because we knew everything we needed to know about, Gary Ringrose and Bundy Aki. We knew everything we needed to know about Johnny Sexton. Maybe someone like Kieran Marmion we were trying to actually see a bit more about. But by and large, it really just was about getting the result. Whereas a game like this, a game you're expected to win, you just want to see how the combinations work, tinker around with the side a little bit, and, give inexperienced lads a go. Like Sam Arnold's on the bench tomorrow. Ross Byrne I'd like to see Ross Byrne come on and get maybe 20-30 minutes tomorrow. I would have liked him to start tomorrow, just to see that little bit more about him. I know
Carberry still needs time at 10 in the green shirt.
Yeah, but he's going to get play. He's had a nice little chunk of it so far in the autumn. He's probably going to see more in the Six Nations off the bench as well, and he's going to see a load of it for Munster this year as well. So I'd just like to see Ross Byrne just see how he handles controlling a game for that first half an hour of a match. I think is very important. We will get into more detail on that in the Type 5 a little bit later on. Just one last thing, because I think we haven't had you in studio this week. Who is your second choice number 9 at the moment? Second choice number 9. I think you'd have to say Marmion after the way he played at the weekend. I think this is a massive chance for John Cooney. Yeah. Given Kieran Marmion's going to be injured now and he's going to be out of the shop window until potentially the start of the Six Nations. If John Cooney can play very well this weekend And if he can carry on that form with Ulster as well, he's like, I think he can put Marmion under an enormous amount of pressure. And Luke McGrath alongside there, like the three of them are so close together, and they offer so many different things as well. I think a good performance from John Cooney, he could start putting a lot of pressure. Yeah, absolutely. You've got a couple of more of the papers? Yeah, waiting game is the headline on the Irish Sun this morning, and it's just pretty much Schmidt and Mick McCarthy is the way most papers are going today. FAI set to meet Mick at the weekend, and Joe will reveal all after US clash. And also as well on the back page of The Guardian, it's focusing on Spurs. We need patience. Pochettino hints further stadium delays are possible. So that is Tottenham Hotspur's new stadium, which they'd hoped to move into at the middle of September. It's now looking likely to be some stage in the middle of January, but who knows at this stage when they're actually going to get into that ground. Yeah, Spurs-Chelsea is the late game in the Premier League tomorrow. We'll get into that with Daniel Harris in just a moment, but before that, here is John Giles speaking on Off the Ball last night about the potential appointment of Mick McCarthy as Republic of Ireland manager again.
Well, I'd probably go for Mick, and again, I've often said, Nathan, the last thing I'd want in my life is to put my life on the line to pick a successful manager. It's very, very difficult. But I'll tell you now, if I was doing it now, I think I would pick Mick McCarthy. Why? Well, I think he's at an age now where it's good for international team management. He's got a lot of experience. He's done the job before, and in most of the clubs he's been to, he's done a good job. He did a good job at Wolves. They didn't spend any money. They got sacked next year. The job he's done at Ipswich has been a tremendous job. He had nothing to spend. He kept them mid-table, and like all teams who were in mid-table for a few seasons, particularly for the chairman or the owner, I'm fed up in middle of the table. He'll have to go. And where are Ipswich now, Nathan?
Yeah, struggling.
Bottom of the league.
Yeah.
Because, in other words, doing the job that he did was a really good job to keep them in the position that they were in. Didn't have any resources, but it's only when he's gone that you realise what a good job he's done. So I think Mick over the years has done a good job. Generally done a good job, and I think he's at an age now where he's got plenty of experience. I think he's well aware of the problems that he'd have with the Irish team. I think he'd be well aware of the players that he has at his disposal. So, for what it's worth, that'd be my pick. John Giles there saying Mick McCarthy should become Ireland manager once again. Daniel Harris joins us on the line this morning. Good morning to you, Daniel.
Hiya.
So he says there that Mick McCarthy's at an age now. I just wanted to start with you on this one. Is there some sort of theory that you need to be a wise old man to be perfect for international management?
I don't think it's so much you need to be a wise old man. It's more to do, I think, with the downside of international management, and the reason that we don't see any top managers at all, more or less, in international football now is because the younger guys want the week-by-week thrust of competition, and they want the elite level competition, and no one can now pretend that is the European Championships or the World Cup. It's quite obviously the Champions League. So I think it's more that when a manager gets a bit older, they're happier with the slower rhythm of international football. And I think also in international football, you don't get the opportunity to do very much coaching. You get your players together, you tell them how you want them to play, but you're not going to really improve players in the time that you have with them. You're just working on shape and picking the team and that kind of thing. So the younger guys also tend to have bigger ideas about imposing how they see football on players and developing players. And older people don't really have time for that. They just got to get on with it, and they want a slightly slower rhythm of life, perhaps. So I think that's more the situation with why he was saying Mick McCarthy might be suitable to take the Ireland job now.
I did want to get your take briefly on the link with Jurgen Klinsmann. There has been some suggestion in the Irish media this morning that the FAI have spoken to him. Would you like Jurgen Klinsmann managing your team right now?
Not particularly, but I guess that you've got to look at it from a perspective of who that team is. Ireland aren't my team. If Ireland were my team, I could definitely see a big upside to Jurgen Klinsmann, just as I could see the same downside. Not the same downside, but a downside. The upside to Jurgen Klinsmann is what you get with him is you get charisma, you get a name, you get someone that players are going to want to play for and want to be coached by. The problem with Jurgen Klinsmann is, I guess, part to do with the problem with Irish football is they don't really have any good players. And so if you're looking to think, well, if you look at the Ireland squad and think how to get the most out of them, it's more obviously easy to get something out of them by setting them up defensively and quite tactics heavy, if you like. So, like, if the other option is Carlos Queiroz, and he's sort of the opposite of Jurgen Klinsmann in that way, he's got no charisma whatsoever, but he does know how to set up a team to defend, which we saw with Manchester United, and we actually saw with Iran in the World Cup, who not only defended properly, but were actually enjoyable to watch as well because they did it with such ludicrous intensity. So I think that Irish football needs some rejuvenation partly after what's gone on towards the end of O'Neill and Keane, but also just because of that lack of talent. And Klinsmann would be the person to deliver that. But then you think back to when he was at Bayern and Philip Lahm writing that when he was the manager, the players needed to get together to discuss tactics because Jurgen Klinsmann didn't give them any. And realistically, this Ireland team are not going to get anywhere without some fairly serious thoughts about how to maximise what they've got and how to minimise what the opposition have got because they're just going through a fallow period for talent at the moment.
Yeah, but I guess it will be kind of a seamless transition if they went from one manager who wasn't giving many tactical instructions to another manager who doesn't give many tactical instructions. Like, while we're talking international football, I did want to get your take briefly on England. Like, at the start of the Nations League, there was, I guess it got a bit of a hard time, the Nations League. People thought that it was too convoluted a format. It wasn't going to bring the excitement that UEFA were imagining it might do. But it seems from an English perspective, that's not been the case at all. It's been happy times.
Yeah, I don't think it's just from an England perspective either. I mean, if you look at Scotland, like that group went down to the wire. UEFA, I mean, we don't say this very often, but UEFA were right about this. International friendlies for years have been unbearable. And it's true that they're better for England now because there's a young team who look like they're getting better, look like they might go somewhere, and are also, amazingly, for those of us who've grown up with the England team, likeable too. And representative of England and all of these things. But the competition itself is balanced. So teams are playing teams of equivalent quality and it means something. Specifically with England again, and this is to Slaven Bilic's remarkable credit, he somehow managed 10 years ago to foment a rivalry between England and Croatia that still exists now. And I mean, that is very strange, but that obviously added some spice. I don't know what he must have said to them, but I guess he played on the superiority complex of the English people when England played Croatia in 2008. And someone said in the press, I think it was Michael Owen, who is obviously renowned for his profound insights, that none of the Croatian players would get in the England team. And I mean, that's still winding them up now. And we heard it after the World Cup semi-final. But I don't think it's just in that league. It's that you're watching matches between teams that are roughly as good as each other. There's something to play for. And I don't think that who wins the European Nations Cup or whatever they've called it is going to be something that is remarkably exciting. But at the same time, it didn't have very much to beat, and it's certainly a huge improvement across the board. So, credit to UEFA for that, because, I mean, they couldn't have made it very much worse, but in the first instance, it sort of looked like they had, just by how complicated it all was. But actually, it's way, way better. And I think, hopefully, we'll see better games as a consequence of the tournaments, because the teams are going to be more used to playing competitive matches with each other and just playing longer with each other. There's not going to be 74 substitutions in the 63rd minute, and there'll probably be fewer cry-offs as well, because players want to play in these games because they know that they mean something, and they know that if they don't, they might lose their spot.
Yeah, for sure, Neil.
Is that the real winner of the UEFA Nations League? Journalists not having to keep track of every single substitution during an international friendly.
It's true. Also, journalists who might not have the imagination to ham up a meaningless friendly also don't have anything to write about at all. The rematch against Croatia from an English perspective was brilliant.
Having said all that, though, if Ireland never have to play Wales or Denmark again for the next 10 years, I'll be perfectly happy.
Yeah, to be fair, our journalists have been well looked after between WhatsApp voice messages, between will he, won't he leave the country, and the eventual departure.
All in all, though, 2 thumbs up on the UEFA Nations League.
2 thumbs up, without question. Premier League, though, is back. I guess, that's a good point there, Daniel. The idea of us kind of yearning during the international break for the return of the Premier League just doesn't actually exist as it previously did. Like, we're sitting here on a Friday before a pretty big weekend in the Premier League at both ends, and there isn't this sort of sense of anticipation that it's like, thank God the international break is over. So even just from an attitude point of view, it's worked to that extent.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it needed some reinvigoration, and I mean, it's never going to quite. International football's never going to be what it was. It's never going to quite get back to its primacy. But it's now not something you're just like. Yeah, it's just, I can't wait for the Premier League to come back. I mean, it's also partly the thing that you get with club football is it's regular. So that most weeks there'll be something that you want to watch at the weekend, and there'll be something that you want to watch in midweek as well. And that hasn't always been. That's usually not the case with international football. It's still not entirely the case, where we've had some days where you look at the fixtures and think, no thanks, really. but it has created that level of excitement where the matches count for something in the same way that they do in a league. I mean, it's the difference between a competitive match and a friendly in the end.
Yeah, there has been club talk though this week in the papers in the midst of the Nations League, and it's been mostly transfer talk. Spurs and Manchester United at the crux of it. We'll get to Spurs in just a moment, but let's start with Manchester United and the talk around Marcus Rashford this week. There was some suggestion that Real Madrid are very, very interested in him as a potential replacement, a long-term replacement to Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not sure about that. And then suddenly it came out yesterday that Manchester United may have a new contract for him. But then Paul Ince weighed in and he says he wondered if he sees young players like Jadon Sancho flying at Borussia Dortmund and playing every week and feels a little bit jealous. Is Marcus Rashford jealous of the situation that other young English players are in?
I don't know. I mean, because in the end, like Jadon Sancho has played some games at Borussia Dortmund, but Marcus Rashford has started a Europa League final. He's been man of the match starting an FA Cup final. He's started 2 FA Cup finals, in fact. So when you compare what Marcus Rashford has had, and a lot of it off Jose Mourinho by hook or by crook, I mean, some of the games he might not have started if everyone had been fit, but Marcus Rashford has started games beyond the level that Jadon Sancho has. So I would be surprised if that were the case. And also, Jadon Sancho's at Dortmund, who are a good team, but not an elite level team in terms of what they've done, what they've done in the history of the game, the United have done. And also, they're not quite expected to do the same kind of thing. So I don't know if he would be jealous of Jadon Sancho. I mean, I would imagine he has been frustrated by not getting as much football as he would like because he's a footballer who wants to play. But at the same time, he's living in Manchester, he's playing with his mates, or some of his mates anyhow, and he's near his family. So there is probably a level at which he is happy with that. But I think that it's getting to the point where he needs to play every week. And the problem for him has been partly with Jose Mourinho. He's not Jose Mourinho's idea exactly of what a centre-forward is. But at the same time, he also has elements of his game to improve. I don't think he's as good on the left wing as Anthony Martial, who has now nailed down that spot. So the only spot that he can really play in is centre-forward. And his hold-up play needs to improve and his finishing needs to improve. And if his hold-up play was better and his finishing was better, he'd be getting picked in that position every week. So he could go to another club and play every week, but I think if he went to an elite level club like Real Madrid or Juventus, he might find that he wasn't playing every week because he's not at the standard that they require either, because those clubs are better than United, and if he's not good enough for United, then he's not going to be good enough for them either. So I'm sure United will get to the end of this season with him and probably another season with him. He's certainly not someone that I think should ever be allowed to leave United, but he has work to do. And I'm sure he's aware of that. He seems a grounded professional who understands that. So there's a bit of right and wrong on both sides. So like the thing that always sticks in people's minds, I think, with Rashford is that he scored twice against Liverpool last season, played brilliantly. And then the next game was Sevilla at home in the Champions League. And he got moved out to the right to accommodate Sanchez, who was completely off his game. So that kind of thing is hard to justify. It was even harder to justify after it happened because it was wrong, because it just didn't work. So that kind of thing needs to stop happening. But I think if he plays well in the end, he'll find that he keeps his spot. And even someone like Martial, it's taken him a while, but he's not really Mourinho's cup of tea probably as a player or as a bloke, but he's made himself undroppable, and hopefully Rashford will get the opportunity to do that, and he'll do it.
Just a quick word on Spurs-Chelsea before we let you go, Daniel. It's the big game of the weekend. It's tomorrow at 5:30. And whenever transfer rumours come up around Christian Eriksen, we're reminded of this idea that he's paid 75 grand a week, which is ludicrously low. Samir Nasri is going to get 80 grand a week if he goes to West Ham, just to put that into a little bit of perspective. And I think Jonathan Wilson put it very well in The Guardian this morning, saying that Spurs are always in this sense of just flirting with an existential crisis. They're always one win or one defeat away from them being defined by that very result. It's Chelsea tomorrow. It's a win, as I say, that would suddenly propel them into potential title challengers if they won it. Well, not really, but they would say that they're a top 3 team. But if they lose it, suddenly it becomes a battle, and a really big battle for the top 4.
I don't entirely agree with that. I think that Spurs are in a battle for the top 4, and they're not going to win the league, and it doesn't matter what happens tomorrow. I think that the problem with Spurs is that there's a feeling, even though they've got more points than they've ever had at this stage of the season, there's a feeling that things have got as good as they're going to get for them until they can spend some money. They missed 2 opportunities to win the league when Leicester and Chelsea won it, and in fact they didn't even get close in those seasons, and I think they're going to end up regretting that, because they're now moving ground. It's obviously taking far longer than it was meant to and costing far more than it was meant to, and the only way of improving at this point, because there's a good team that they have to catch if they want to win the league, is by spending money that they don't have. And what actually might happen in the end is, if Pochettino decides he's had enough, which looks like it might happen from what he's been saying, then there's a good chance that some of the players will decide that they've had enough as well. My guess would be that players like Dele Alli, like Eriksen, maybe even Harry Kane, are only there as long as Pochettino's there. And I think almost like the length of the contract that Harry Kane signed suggests that they're a get-out, because was it 6 or 7 years? No player would ever sign a contract of that length unless there were get-outs, because it's just like, who knows what could possibly happen. I can't believe that Harry Kane's advisor would say sign that and stay there for 6 or 7 years without any way of leaving with this club that's taken on this enormous expense. So that sort of tells you that there must be ways out of it for Harry Kane, and similarly for Pochettino. And that would be the concern for Spurs. At the moment, they're doing really well. And even if they lose at home to Chelsea, you can lose at home to Chelsea and still finish in the top 4. It wouldn't be an awful result. And so I wouldn't get too excitable either way, but for either team, about what happens in that game. And the truth is neither of them need the points exactly, because neither of them are going to win the league, and both of them are in the battle for the top 4, whatever happens. So Spurs are in a good position. Mauricio Pochettino has done an incredible job, and we've got to remember that they've got this number of points this season, and they haven't really started playing well yet. So they do have some gears to find. So they may or may not find them tomorrow, but at some point this season you would think they'll hit their stride, and then if they do, they will finish in the top 4, but they won't win the league, which we sort of knew before.
So the big game of the weekend means nothing at all. Daniel Harris, thanks a million for your time.
See you again.
Chat to you again next week. Daniel Harris there on the line. It is like he's riding what he says, to be quite honest. Like, my enthusiasm for this game has been completely punctured. One thing we didn't get to there.
I know what you were trying to say, Eoin. It's 2 very good teams playing each other.
Let's go with that. They are 2 good teams. They're both very good at football. The one thing we didn't actually mention, like, you're obviously Premier League Live, of course, on Today FM tomorrow. You'll be keeping close tabs.
Watford Liverpool. That's a big game. Very, very good day tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, because Fulham Southampton is a big one.
Well, you also have Man United Palace at 3 o'clock. You've got City away to West Ham at 3 o'clock. So City, Liverpool and United all playing 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
That is rare.
Rare you get that. But as you say, actually, Fulham and Southampton.
In terms of consequences, it's
Claudio Ranieri's back.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one, because I think Southampton at home, pretty good game to have, first game back, for a new manager to have. I think you always get the bounce in general. Southampton at home, like, absolutely appalling going forward. Southampton, you're a team that can't stop conceding goals. It's probably what you want, I think.
Yeah, without question. I've got big hopes for relegation battle this year. I've said it multiple times. Let's have a look at some of the other replies from that Mick McCarthy tweet yesterday. There was over 100 of them. As I say, here's kind of a scroll through the general view. That gif, the teaspoon gif, is just. It is like, there was 2 Mick McCarthy gifs that are 2 of the best sports gifs of all time. It's the other one where he's in the dugout and he just finds the eye contact of the camera.
Turns over.
So Mick has a lot of knowledge, blah, blah, ridiculous from FAI. This is depressing, says Aidan. Another gif where a man walks out the window. Made no sense. Going to appoint another dinosaur, somebody pretty harsh there. So he's going to get the 2002 band back together, ask somebody. Here comes a Michael Scott gif. We missed it. Scroll just too quickly. There's just too many tweets to actually stop. The FAI haven't a clue what they're doing.
Overwhelmingly negative reaction.
Yeah.
I know. I was saying earlier myself. Maybe I would have wanted to see Stephen Kenny, but it's actually incredible to see all those replies coming in.
There's the one.
There it is. The greatest.
I love Mick McCarthy gifs. We are going to turn our attention to rugby in just a moment. To Type 5, I'm excited. It's back. We haven't had it in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Haven't had it in a few weeks. You were at the Web Summit. I was away then last week. And
how was Barcelona?
It's great. Yeah. Lovely spot.
Did you go get a game?
I didn't, because it was an international week.
Good point.
Yeah.
I forgot that.
That's when I get my holidays with Premier League Live off,
Yeah.
So, no, great time though. And I was home just in time to sit on the couch and watch the Ireland All Blacks game. rare weekend off. Very enjoyable.
Yeah, look at you. So, as I say, we're going to get to that in just a moment. But before all that, here is Joe Schmidt chatting about his future.
It's a decision that will probably not be finalised till Sunday, really. But it's a decision that has been a long time coming, and you know, the family I have probably committed most to is this family that I live with in Carton House, as much as it is the family I have at home. And so, you know, we've put our heads together and tried to reconcile how we can best, you know, maybe cater for both.
So it will be after this weekend's game that you reveal it?
Yeah, I think certainly early next week. I'd like to be able to take a deep breath on Sunday and then, you know, I know I can't continue to just go backwards and forwards, because to be honest, I beat myself up enough about this decision. I'm probably going to be the most pleased of anyone when it finally is made.
What's your gut feeling on this?
Gut feeling with the way he's kind of phrased things and body language just about feels like he might be going. I really want him to go like full LeBron James or Antoine Griezmann, do like the decision. I'm going to take my talents to Carton House or something like that. You know?
That's a great shout. Here is what's coming up in the Tide 5 Schmidt Future. We'll get into that in just a moment. Ireland scrum. We're going to get into some deep analysis, some rugby nerdery over the next few minutes. The Irish 15 for tomorrow. The best ever second Irish team is what we're contemplating. England against Australia. And then off the back of that, is that a battle for who's the number 3 team in the world? Are Wales the number 3 team in the world? Are the Springboks? We'll get Neil's take on that in just a moment. But just to go back to Joe Schmidt, like, is it a case here where it's simply Ireland or the All Blacks, or is there some sort of middle ground here where Joe Schmidt is like, actually, I'm going to take a break for a while, or manage a club team down there or something?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of a middle ground where he'd go away and maybe, you know, work in Super Rugby for a couple of years, you know, maybe not necessarily jump straight into the All Blacks gig. Generally, and I say generally, never does someone just go straight into the All Blacks gig. They always have to do a stint with a Super Rugby franchise down there. Maybe if Joe Schmidt is going over there with the record he has, or if he has an amazing World Cup with Ireland, maybe that changes things. You know, they might set a new precedent down there, but who knows? If he does leave, I think there is a decent succession plan in there. Immediately you would think Andy Farrell to step up is the ideal solution. You look around the provinces, someone like Leo Cullen's done an amazing job. I don't think it would be any harm for him to just stay at Leinster for a few more years, because, you know, his first gig was working at Leinster. He'd barely been a coach for a couple of years, having retired. So leave him at Leinster, work away for a while. Dan McFarlane's just got the Ulster job. You know, Andy Friend is new in Ulster as well, and Johan van Graan is pretty much new in Munster. So there's no one jumping out from the provinces to step in there. Looking at people like Rowan O'Gara, I think he's happy enough to do his travels and to just learn his trade quietly away from the spotlight and out of the Irish bubble. And I think it's great that so many Irish players are getting out of Ireland to go do coaching as well around the place, if I can go off on a tangent. But anyway, back to Schmidt. I think if he does go, yeah, it would be Andy Farrell would be the logical one to just step up, because like the players clearly have massive respect for him.
Yeah. They've
clearly bought into the way he works defensively. You know, his defensive system against New Zealand last week was amazing. You know, he's the Northern Hemisphere defence coach that has beaten the All Blacks the last 2 times, and the 2 times in 23 years or whatever it is. Or to stop them scoring tries in the last 23 years. So I think if Schmidt does go, it will be a massive blow. But I think he's become very good at delegating in the last year. You know, when they were in Chicago there a couple of weeks ago, he didn't link up with the squad until Thursday or Friday. He stayed behind for a few days. So I think in the last couple of years, he has got very good at kind of delegating to his support staff and letting them kind of work away on things and letting them take charge of different areas of the game. Simon Easterby's done a great job in the forwards, and what could be actually very difficult as well is losing Greg Feek next year after the World Cup, the scrum coach, because he's going to be moving to Japan, and that is an area of the game where Ireland have been world leaders in the last couple of years. So look, whatever decision Schmidt makes, we're going to know in the next week or so. It would be fantastic to see that he signed a new contract. Even even the poison chalice that we've got used to in Irish sport of Irish coaches signing contracts before World Cups. I think you could make an exception this time around, given what he's actually achieved to date. He's proven that he's got the track record. But look, you probably just would be edging on the side that he might be leaving.
Just in terms of replacements, the case for Stuart Lancaster is twofold. First of all, it's Stuart Lancaster. He is the coach on this island who I would say there's a strong argument has been responsible for the biggest turnaround we've seen in Irish rugby over the last 2-3 seasons. Second of all, you take him out of Leinster and then you talk about Leo Cullen's development. Like, suddenly Leo Cullen has to go to another level. He has to face the challenge of doing this without Stuart Lancaster. The amount he's learned from him, having more responsibility to himself. So it benefits the idea of Leo Cullen being the next Ireland manager after that in like 4 or 8 years' time, whatever it may be. So I think the benefits to that are twofold to get Lancaster into the frame. The thing is, you get the band back together, Lancaster and Farrell. Yeah,
and like we don't really have a clue what the relationship is like between Lancaster and Farrell. Obviously, I think, since the World Cup, we would have heard, that there was the kind of debates over selection with England in 2015. So to be honest, I don't think a lot of us really know what their relationship is like at all. Lancaster seems very, very happy doing, I suppose, kind of like the background work at Leinster, not being out there and being the director of rugby as such. He likes being out in the training park with the whistle in his hand, working with the team, doing the hands-on stuff as opposed to maybe, planning out recruitment with Leinster. It's not so much an issue with Ireland, but he just seems to be out on the pitch. He seems to really, really enjoy that. And I don't know, as amazing a job as he's doing, at Leinster, I'd be fairly happy for him to kind of stay there and keep developing them, because I suppose the academy is such an important part of the Irish rugby. That's the stuff he loves as well. And I read a great book recently. It was actually amazing timing. It's called House of Lancaster. It was written just after the 2015 or before the 2015 World Cup. How Stuart Lancaster has transformed the fortunes of English rugby. When I got the book in 2015, I was looking at it going, well, this hasn't really aged well in a couple of months since it was released. And I didn't actually read it until about 6 months ago, until you really saw the impact he had at Leinster and just the level of detail he goes into with the young players as well. You can just clearly see that the success England had immediately after the World Cup, so much of that was just coming down to the stuff that Lancaster had done with those young players. He had laid all the foundations there, and Eddie Jones kind of came in and was able to just pick things up straight away, and that's why they had such immediate success. But I think, Lancaster would be in contention. I would see Andy Farrell as the natural successor, though. You mentioned Greg Feek's scrum there a moment ago. Not Greg Feek's scrum, his scrum. It is a freakishly good scrum.
It really is. Let's have a look at this. You're going to talk us through some of the images from the All Blacks last Saturday night.
Yeah, there were a couple of scrums in particular in the first half that Ireland just absolutely obliterated New Zealand, and we're going to look at a couple of them here just in a little bit more detail. So circle there on your screen, you can see this is the 25th minute mark. This was leading up to a penalty Ireland got. So just there, you can see that's what we want to look at over the next minute or so. So that is Tadhg Furlong is the tight head prop for Ireland there. He's up against Carl Tuinukuafe of New Zealand. And we're just moving on to the next clip here. That is the moment. See just there under the arm, you can see Carl Tuinukuafe's head.
Yes.
That has popped up. So Tadhg Furlong has driven in there and he has just lifted him up. He's driven in and he's popped him up, and this is where the pressure comes on. And we're just going to run it on again. Now, this is the moment you can see the two lines there. So that's Cian Healy on the left, Rory Best in the middle, and just ever so slightly angled is Tadhg Furlong. So in reality, Tadhg Furlong probably is boring in a little bit. He's driving in at the angle, so he's attacking the gap in between Carl Tuinukuafe, the loosehead prop for New Zealand, and Cody Taylor, who was the hooker. So he's really targeting the hooker and trying to take Tuinukuafe out of the game. And as we can see, he's popped up, Tuinukuafe. He's on the outside, and really he's irrelevant now in the scrum. He's got absolutely no power to... Now. Yeah, it's 3v2 basically for Ireland. But you can just see the slight variation in the angle there. And that's where Furlong moves in. What I'd also like to point out as well is Cian Healy. What a lot of teams try to do here is, usually what a loosehead prop will try to do is he'll try to get in under the chest of the the tight head prop and try drive in. So he'll try really get in under the breastbone and really just drive in. But what Healy's doing very well is he's staying on the outside, because they clearly have planned out that this is what they're going to work on. Tadhg Furlong is going to do the attacking and Cian Healy is going to balance things out. What a lot of teams end up doing sometimes is both props will try drive in. They'll be doing their own thing. And okay, they might get a penalty out of it, but on a lot of occasions, if they don't get a penalty, what they end up doing sometimes is they just completely destabilise things for themselves, because you get a number 8 at the back who doesn't really know what way the scrum is going. Mm-hmm. Whereas with this time around, Cian Healy has the discipline to at least stay on the outside of his prop and just drive on that outside shoulder and let Tadhg Furlong do the attacking. So everyone in the scrum knows their role and knows what's happening, and CJ Stander with the ball at his feet at the back, he knows that the scrum is going to drift to the left. So he doesn't really have to be worrying about where the ball is going too much. And, Ireland absolutely obliterated them at that scrum. And the next one we're going to look at as well, because it's an area Ireland have done so well in over the last few years. And in particular, like I was in a few weeks ago, we were speaking at the Ulster and Racing 92 one, and how Racing scored, I think it was 24 points, first phase off a scrum. In the Argentina game a couple of weeks ago before this, Ireland scored 19 of their 28 points pretty much directly from a scrum. 2 of the tries, Kieran Marmion's and Luke McGrath's, were just first phase, pick and go from the back and over the line. And also Bundyacki's try, Ireland turned over the Argentinian scrum, won the ball back, and a few phases later they got over. So 19 points came from that. But yeah, we'll just go back to this is the one just before half-time. This is the one people really, really loved, when Ireland absolutely butchered New Zealand. And what we're going to look at there, see that curved yellow line?
Yeah.
That's Carl Tuanakawaffe, the loosehead prop for New Zealand. Now, that is how his body shape is lining up before the scrum. It's exactly what you don't want to happen. His back is arched.
This is before the scrum.
This is as they've set.
So this is clearly what Ireland are doing to him. Like, surely an all-black prop can't go into a scrum in a poor body position.
Well, in a few minutes' time, we'll actually see it from the other side, and he just sets up poorly. And you see, he's doing it. He's trying to get down low he's trying to go low to drive up, if you know what I mean. He's trying to drive down and up to lift Furlong. And it does not work out from whatsoever. So we can see there the arched back, and we'll just roll it on to the next one. And that is what happens straight away. He tries to drive down and up, but Tadhg Furlong just maintains a good body position, maintains it flat, and he's actually driving quite parallel to the rest of his teammates here. It's not really a case that he's boring in or anything like that, but Tuanakawaffe just gets his angles completely wrong, and Tadhg Furlong just gets straight in under him and pops him up. And we'll just roll it on to the next one here. And what he does, but this is something I absolutely loved. I put a GIF out of it there on Twitter earlier in the week. Tadhg Furlong, not only, this is where you get into the dark art stuff. The scrum is over at this stage. Ireland have the advantage. And you can see there circled, Tadhg Furlong, he has grabbed a hold. He's maintained his bind on Tuanakawaffe. It almost like as a matter of principle, like, the scrum is over, but I'm still bound to you. I'm not leaving go. And what he does is, Furlong just holds onto him, falls to the ground, brings Tuanakawaffe with him, who is as well bound to Cody Taylor, the New Zealand hooker.
He comes with him.
So Tadhg Furlong has taken 2 defenders out of the game straight away there. And that is after the scrum. And, it doesn't come 10th and Ireland don't score a try off it, but you can just see that, it's not necessarily just what you're doing in the scrum. It's maintaining the bind after and just kind of, he's almost doing it in a way of like, you tried to get in under me and mess me up. I'm just going to hold on to you here now for a little while. But there is like a kind of he's just thinking a few phases ahead. And we'll just look at it again here from the other side. I mentioned there we have the other angle of it. This is how he set up at the start here beforehand. You can see Tadhg Furlong's angles are perfect. A nice right angle at his hips, and then just a nice bend at the knees, about 120 degrees. But Tuanakawaffe, it's just the back is arched. That's the problem. The head is a little bit higher than the hips, not too much. But you can just see as we roll it on next. So he tries to drive up immediately.
And Furlong sees the opportunity straight away.
Yeah, he tries to drive up. Furlong essentially just isn't taking that bait. Mm-hmm. And we'll move it on again now. And this is what happens. Tadhg Furlong is straight in there under him. And what Peter O'Mahony does here as well is what pretty much all flankers do, and it annoys the life out of a prop, is as soon as he sees that little gap at the chest as well, and he sees his prop is moving in, O'Mahony will shift straight up.
Right.
And just drive straight in on that front row as well, just to make it even worse. And there is nothing worse nothing worse as a prop than that feeling that, oh my God, I am absolutely obliterated here. On some occasions, like, it's terrifying as well sometimes, because if you're getting driven up and, do you know, sometimes you'll see the head pops out.
Yeah.
That is out of sheer necessity. Because if your head is in there and you're being driven up into your chest, what's happening is your head is literally just being pushed straight down into your chest. You can't breathe anymore. It is a terrifying experience. And you just have to get your head up there and just accept the fact that you've been defeated this time around.
Yeah. It's also the sort of absolute psychological blow that is.
Enormous, yeah.
When you feel that it's not just like the result.
And likewise, it doesn't matter whether you're under 12s or whether you're playing, whether you're on a Lions Tour or a World Cup, if you absolutely take your opposition prop apart. I think being in a dominant scrum is something everyone should get to experience some stage in their lifetime.
Yeah.
It's the most powerful feeling. You feel absolutely invincible.
It sounds like a good idea for like a theme park ride or something. Be part of a dominant scrum here.
I would help set that up.
Quickly, we're going to get into the Ireland team. Is this the best Ireland A team we've ever seen?
Yeah, I mean, like, arguably, it's probably not a debate we've had before, so we've nothing really to look back on. But if you're just talking like the sheer depth of team, absolutely it is. There's quite a lot I'm looking forward to see here. I think Niall Scannell, big opportunity for him. Huge opportunity for him. Tyke Burns, we mentioned in the second row. Joey Carber, it's going to be nice to see him. John Cooney has a huge chance there as well. And Stuart McCluskey in the centre. I'm looking forward to see him because Paul Lasike, the Harlequins man, he's playing the centre for the USA. He is an absolute barrel. He's short, he's stocky, he's incredibly physical. So I think Stuart McCluskey is put in there specifically to deal with him. And likewise, Sam Arnold on the bench, just as a little reinforcement. He's an incredibly physical player. But yeah, I think there isn't a huge amount to preview really in this game. It's just about seeing afterwards how these combinations all work together, how someone like Will Addison gets it full back, or does Darren Sweetenham take his chance well out in the wing. It's basically just getting the minutes and seeing how the combinations work together. Yeah, quickly then, England against Australia. Like, it got me thinking, who is the number 3 team in the world? Currently, if you look at the rankings, it's Wales, and then you go down through the rankings, you've got England in 4th, South Africa in 5th, and Australia in 6th. But if you look at the points in the rankings, the gap between Australia and Wales, between 6th and 3rd, is actually a smaller gap than exists between Wales and Ireland, between 2nd and 3rd. So, like, I don't want to say there's a divide between the top 2 and the rest. You said it this morning, and as soon as you said it, in my head I went, I haven't a clue who the 3rd best team in the world is. There's so little between them, and on any given day I'd say they could beat each other. By the time the World Cup comes around, I'd be banking that I think South Africa would probably be the 3rd best team in the world. I think Rassie Erasmus is doing some good stuff with them. I liked, they ground out a win there at the weekend. They lost against England, fair enough, a couple of weeks back, but I think they're making real progress in comparison to where they were 12 months ago. They were a complete rabble. I think they're making very good progress, and come the World Cup, I would say they would be in that next bracket after Ireland and New Zealand, and could potentially be quite close to those two as well. A reminder this morning, you're watching OTBAM and it's live at screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. Mystic Murphy, just a shout out here for Jenny Murphy for this wonderful prediction on last week's Saturday panel with Nathan Murphy.
Watching that game then last week between New Zealand and England, what were the areas that you saw on that All Blacks team that maybe Ireland could really get at them?
I think England punched up really well and varied their play, and their back line tended to drift left to right a lot, and as a result you can see, if you look in the backfield, Damien McKenzie would drift with the back line, and then it was just snapped the other direction. So Chris Ashton got a try, there was no backfield cover, and it was because majority of the English backfield basically switched. He followed them, ball was snapped the other way, and Ashton was kind of free to do what he does. So I can think that I thought Rico Ioni got caught a little bit narrow a few times. Like, Steve Hansen is going to tidy that up and fix that a lot. So those kind of areas that were spotted by Eddie Jones, they probably won't be there to the extent today. But I'm sure Joe Schmidt has something up his sleeve anyway.
Something up his sleeve he did have. What a shout from Jenny Murphy there. That's almost bang on how things transpired. Darren Cleary, good morning to you.
Good morning, all.
What's going on?
It feels a little bit the start of Celtic Tiger 2.0, because the Spice Girls have just sold out Crow Park, and Mick McCarthy's going to be the next Ireland manager.
I'm not sure. Like, we always kind of look back kind of wistfully at
And
the
there's
start of the Celtic
cranes
Tiger.
everywhere in Dublin.
And there's cranes everywhere,
yeah.
and no one can afford to live in Dublin anymore.
I'm not sure if the Celtic Tiger was a good thing.
No, Owen, it wasn't a good thing.
We got to a World Cup, Owen. We got to a World Cup.
Yeah, but then they cut Roy Keane's face out of a scaffolding cover. Remember that? The big famous scaffolding cover is like 40 feet high, and after Keane left, there was like a 7-up ad, and they cut his head out of it, the builders.
Yeah. Was Roy Keane dressing up as a samurai the most Celtic Tiger thing that ever happened to the Ireland football team?
That was savage.
What's going to be the Celtic Phoenix's version of that?
That was definitely up there. The weird thing is, I have a feeling that there might be a little bit of bait and switch. I think Kenny might be favoured for the job, because it seemed like a lot of media outlets at the same time found out that McCarthy was seemingly, it was his job to turn down, which happened 5 years ago, where I know someone, the FAI told him that, yeah, Mick's our guy, we're definitely going for Mick. But it was all designed to manipulate the media to then put O'Neill under a little bit of pressure to sign the deal that was in front of him.
The difference here being that you're comparing Martin O'Neill with Stephen Kenny, and the FAI had no issue with Martin O'Neill, and particularly not with Roy Keane. They were like, these are two very high-profile names, whereas I think there is a legitimate case to be made that maybe the FAI don't rate Stephen Kenny as highly as some other candidates due to his profile.
I would think Stephen Kenny's had a much more successful last 5 years than Mick McCarthy has.
I agree.
The point that the players wouldn't know Stephen Kenny, respect him.
High profile,
yeah. I mean,
I think that's the argument I was making, though, is it?
I get the argument, but I don't understand how the
maybe
profile
they would have been
relevant.
trying to keep it hush-hush at the time because Martin O'Neill was such a big name.
They weren't. They were trying to put pressure on O'Neill to sign it, because the deal was in front of O'Neill, and he was doing the O'Neill thing where it took him a year and a half to sign his second contract with the FAI. He was just stalling. So they wanted to get their man in place. So, yeah, we're giving the job to Mick. Okay, I better sign this contract.
I could see the FAI using Stephen Kenny to get Mick McCarthy. I'm not sure I could see them using Mick McCarthy to get Stephen Kenny.
Well, they've used Mick twice, if that is the case, which would be pretty harsh if you're going to just use Mick to get your main man.
Stephen Kenny hasn't exactly been coy, though, about the whole thing, has he?
No, he's issued the, issuing a come and get me plea. The dictionary definition is what Stephen Kenny said yesterday.
Yeah, I just think if they were playing games with this, it doesn't really feel like they need to play games with it.
No, it's a
if
weird.
They wanted Stephen Kenny, he's there to be got.
They could get
Stephen Kenny has well and truly swiped right on Tinder. No question about that.
I was actually watching a montage.
Give him a super like.
Yes, I don't.
If they are getting a bit creeped out.
Yeah, I don't really get the Tinder thing. I'm not a Tinderer.
Yeah, I think
super like is better than a swipe right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a super swipe right.
Super swipe.
That's what Stephen Kenny's done.
I tell you who's not super swiping right, Liam Brady, and he's not super swiping right on the FAI because he believes that an overhaul is needed at the top levels of Irish football. The Ireland manager Martin O'Neill paid the price for results on the pitch, but the majority of the decision makers at the FAI at the top level have been in situ for over a decade. Brady was instrumental in shaping the successful talent development programme when he served as the director of the Arsenal Youth Academy. The Dubliner held that position for 17 years. He helped hundreds of players on the path to professional football. Arsenal's academy, widely regarded as one of the best in Europe, despite being run by one of their former players. Nobody from the FAI sought counsel from Brady or arranged to visit London to observe the setup. Brady says a number of GAA and soccer managers did get a glimpse of the Gunners setup, but aside from Brian Kerr, no one from the FAI actually bothered to come to visit. The former Ireland assistant manager was speaking to RTE Radio.
Well, unfortunately, nobody from the FAI. Not since Brian was on the scene, and Brian would pop up at the training ground from time to time. He was coming watching the young Irish players, but we had a visit from a delegation of the Dublin GAA board, led by Pat Gilroy when he was manager, going back 10 years. And not only did they want to know about youth development, but they wanted to know about the running of the football club. They wanted to improve things for Dublin, and seeing the results of that. And I'm not saying they did that only by coming to Arsenal. You can bet your life they were going other places, to other organisations, to see how they could get better. They were proactive. And the same with the Limerick GAA board. They came to see me about 5 years ago, Joe McKenna and some of the chaps from Limerick, and they wanted to know about youth development, and particularly in with the relationship to hurling. And, look what they've gone on and done. Mm-hmm. So they're being proactive. I'm not too sure the FAI are.
That is actually incredible. That not so much the idea that the FAI didn't do it, but just the haunting nature that two of the most successful startups in GAA, to call them startups, have gone out
Dublin
there.
a startup?
Well, let's
come on, Neil. Before the Leinster dominance, they were brutal for a decade. Between 95 and the mid-noughties, they didn't do anything.
That is an argument for another day. Very much so. The point I'm trying to make here is that this is how high-performance sport is supposed to work.
Yeah, learn from everyone else.
Like when people were saying tongue-in-cheek
100%.
at the start of this week, oh, give Joe Schmidt the job. Like, actually, let's take that as a serious point for a moment. What can Irish sport do to learn from what Joe Schmidt has brought? We have him for one more year. Let's say he does leave in the next year. How can we mine the information that the IRFU have built up on a high-performance level, and how can we apply that to the FAI?
Well, honestly, at this stage, it's the FAI should be going in and trying to learn from Dublin GA.
Yeah.
It's not even Dublin GA trying to learn from a football team or from a soccer team anymore.
Yeah.
It is, how can the Irish teams learn from a team with such a winning culture like Dublin?
I was going to give the FAI the benefit of the doubt, saying they probably just didn't think of this idea, but really, if Limerick and Dublin are doing it, they should have known that, one of your best players ever, if not your best ever player, is working with one of the best academies in world football. Maybe you should go and actually...
He set it up. He was instrumental in founding it and getting it to the level it was at. It beggars belief, because it certainly works the other way. Neil, I just found this picture on a sports file there, and it shows one of the All Blacks watching on as Ireland were training in Abbottstown a couple of weeks ago.
What did he learn, I wonder?
Very little, I would say. These boys just play 11 aside. Yeah. They don't really do any training.
Well, I think the All Blacks were staying out in Blanchardstown, weren't they?
Yeah, but they were actually, they went and watched. I've seen Johnny Cooper go to Leinster training, and I know a couple of the other Dublin players have been around various non-GAA setups, obviously, to have a look at the methods.
It's no coincidence the number of top sports people that are engaged in other sports.
Yeah.
And aren't just completely immersed in their own game.
And it seems that does not exist within the top brass of the FAI, or within, not so much the playing group. I think that's a little bit harsh. I think it's very harsh, actually. But certainly the people who run Irish football aren't that interested in the successes of other things. It's, we're football men and football men only.
Yeah, O'Neill has, I think, escaped with, not escape, but he's bared the brunt of all this anger and frustration. And in a lot of ways, he has been the scapegoat. I mean, the more pertinent question is, what has Noel King done for Irish football in the last decade? How did he manage to get a cushier number, having failed to qualify for the Under-21 championships during his entire spell there? What is Ruth Doctor doing? How, in the entire time after Brian Kerr, did no one have the foresight to pick up the phone to Liam Brady and say, can we come and watch what you're doing? It's absolutely insanity when you look at almost the prophetic nature of Pat Gilroy in Dublin going over and getting some idea of what they're doing in high performance. And I know Gilroy, through the link with Vodafone at the time when they were sponsors, they went and they had a look at what they were doing with the F1 team, and they got so much insight into how high functioning sports people can get better. And Limerick as well, a brilliant point that they went and actually, it's not even the practicalities of, well, they train at this time, they eat this, they do this. It's just seeing the roles involved in keeping high performance turning and getting the best out of people.
Yeah, well, that is actually incredible stuff from Liam Brady there. Really interesting. What else is going on? Yeah,
the pressure is mounting not just on Martin O'Neill. He's paid the price, as we said, but the CEO, John Delaney, in the last 24 hours, a number of people have called for him to go. The spotlight firmly on the head of the FAI, Andy Townsend, you'll hear him in a moment. Brian Kerr as well, joining a growing list of disillusioned fans, pundits and former players.
There's no suggestion right now that John Delaney is going to want to turn around and pass the baton to somebody else, but he should. He should. But he's done. He's had his run at it, and he should be prepared now, for the sake of Irish football, to let somebody else go and implement some dynamism into it, a fresh approach.
I think the focus now should be on the board, who allow John Delaney to run the association in the way he runs it. And that's where the focus should be now, as much as it should be on the appointment of the senior manager and the under-21 manager. There's space and time now for a bit of a clean sweep, I think. What type of respect have they got from the general public, from the media, from the football community in Ireland?
I like we've been speaking about this at the top of the show, I don't get the big rush here. Like, I think everything you hear there, it's like, this is going to take some calculation, this is going to take a little bit of time. Just relax. I don't care if the new Republic of Ireland manager is going to be present or not on Sunday week for the draw.
But is it really about that? Is it not about baiting and switching of the heat was about to come on to the top brass and the decision makers, so let's dispense with the services of Martin O'Neill. So then everyone is talking about that, everyone is looking at that. Now it seems the narrative is
more so finding someone quickly.
Exactly, so that the narrative remains on the manager's position, and it's all about the manager. It's nothing to do with, Dan McDonnell had a piece where 10 of the board that decided to get rid of Brian Kerr at the time, 6 of them are still in place. And the question is, why do the kingmakers never have to pay the price for their failures? Why do they never even have to explain their failures?
That's the thing. And they'll get the new manager appointed, they'll get him in front of the media straight away, and the news cycle goes in a very different direction.
Yes, the questions won't be asked. And I mean, they are pertinent questions. And I think most tellingly, the line that sticks out with me wasn't that the performances were concerning. For me, the performances were depressing over the last 12 months, but it was the tickets and 31,000 fans coming to Northern Ireland, which was the standout line in Luke Edwards' piece. And Luke would be very well connected with Martin O'Neill. He'd have an insight into what O'Neill is experiencing and what O'Neill is talking about. So that line that was brought up apparently in the meeting between O'Neill and Delaney, that 31,000 tickets and the fans' frustrations growing, that was more troubling than the performances, for me, is very illuminating.
We did have a comment in earlier on. I deleted it. I apologise, I don't have his or her name in front of me. That Slaven Bilic could be a potential Ireland manager after Daniel Harris mentioned him earlier on. I've heard worse shouts. If we're getting into the outlandish nature of Jurgen Klinsmann,
be a bit of fun at the very least. It might completely end in tears. But
is he of the correct age to be an international manager? That's the key component.
Is it a retirement gig? Is that what we're saying?
Well, apparently Mick McCarthy, according to John Giles,
he was an international. He's been there and done it. He's moved on.
Done it. Has he done it?
Well, just as in
he did. He's done it, but he hasn't. He hasn't done it.
He has literally.
He has
done
fulfilled
it.
the role. Yeah. I tell you who won't be getting it. Roddy Collins. Did you see what he had to say about?
I did not.
Stephen Kenny. He was not very complimentary of Stephen Kenny. He said he's the manager of a pub league. Roddy won it with his eyes closed in 2 years. Why would we give it to Stephen Kenny? It wasn't very, very complimentary in his column.
Putting out his sales pitch.
We'll go to the more successful team on this island, and the rugby team. And Rhys Ruddock leads the captain's run at the Aviva Stadium later today as they finalise preparations for the test with the USA. The Leinster flanker returns to the side, one of 14 changes from the team that heroically defeated the All Blacks. Only Gary Ringrose has retained his spot in that team, and Joe Schmidt has been assessing the threat of the USA.
They're the only unbeaten international side that I can think of this season. I think they're 9 from 9, therefore it's especially putting into context their win against Scotland during the summer. If you're not absolutely on the money, then there's a big risk for us.
Good day for Kelly Arrington. She secured her spot in the World Championship final. The Dubliner recorded a unanimous victory over Karina Ibragimova of Kazakhstan in the lightweight semi-final yesterday. Harrington will fight for gold against Thailand's Sudaporn Sidonsi. The 28-year-old has already made history by reaching World Championship finals in 2 different weight classes. She also joins Katie Taylor and Joe Ward as the only Irish boxers to contest more than 1 World Championship final. The chairman of the Leinster Council say Dublin's Leinster Championship opener cannot be played anywhere but O'Moore Park or Wexford Park. Wexford and Louth go head-to-head next summer, with the winner going on to face the reigning All-Ireland champions in the provincial quarter-finals. The Yellow Bellies will have home advantage should they win that tie, but if Louth come out on top of the game, they would have to be played in Portlaoise. Jim Bulger has told the Herald today only 4 venues in the province are fit to host Dublin: O'Moore Park, Wexford Park, Nolan Park and O'Connor Park. Wicklow and Carlow made unsuccessful requests to move their matches with Dublin to their home grounds over the last few years. Bulger says taking Dublin out of Croke Park is financially harmful to them, but they do it in the interests of games promotions. Well, finally, off the ball, would like to wish our Newstalk colleague Aisling O'Reilly and her Ratho teammates all the best of luck this Sunday. The Meath Club take on Clontibbert of Monaghan in the AIB All-Ireland Junior B Camogie final. That's at Park Talton in Navan. Throw-in is at 12:30, so good luck to Aisling and all the Ratho team from us.
Absolutely. So Irish midfielder Conor Harahan joined the Keith Andrews show yesterday actually. Some really good stuff. Here's what he had to say about the management setup and what changed during his time with Ireland.
You've hit the nail on the head. Last week against Northern Ireland, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back, because the level of players they have on paper isn't as good as ours. But yet our lads were chasing shadows, lacked that idea. That must have been a frustrating watch for the players. Yeah. Whether they were playing or on the bench or part of the squad, Conor. It must have been a difficult night, that one in particular.
Yeah, definitely. It was. You look at their squad. You even look at the Wales squad that came to Ireland. When Harry Wilson scored that goal, I think we had 6 or 7 Premier League players, and they had 2 or 3, something like that, and they played good football that night as well. I think maybe when I first joined the squad, you had the likes of John O'Shea, Darren Murphy, Wes, Glenn, Stephen Ward, people who had hundreds of caps between them, and they probably didn't need as much info and as guidance. You know what I mean? Because they had huge amounts of experience. I think obviously with the younger and inexperienced squad that's there now, we needed every help that we needed possible. We needed all the info we needed possible to compete at that level. And that's where I think we found it frustrating, because international football is such a high quality, and lads, I've seen that over the last 12 months. The results haven't been great. But like you said, and I'll keep saying it, I definitely know that there is quality in that squad, without a shadow of a doubt, definitely.
Yeah, Conor Howerhan there speaking to Keith Andrews' show. You can go on to youtube.com/offtheball to watch the full interview back. As you can see, the breakfast menu is up. We've got Mondaphone, Tiger Phil, Money Shot, GA Priorities, Bomber and Ever Apology. Let's start with Mondaphone. Martin O'Neill basically picked up the phone to Matt Doherty after his interview on 2FM a couple of nights ago and wasn't too pleased with what he had to say about his time at charge. Is this petty or is this understandable?
I could see why he'd be annoyed that, there is the sanctity of the dressing room and all that, and maybe Matt Doherty might have broken it. At the same time, I could 100% see why Matt Doherty was more than happy to speak about it, because you could see how frustrated he's been for the last while. He mentioned there before he got his full debut, the whole face doesn't fit thing. He clearly seems like a guy that if he has something on his mind, he's more than willing to say it. And as someone who works in the media, I would not discourage him from doing that at all. There are scarce enough professional sports people out there who are willing to kind of speak their mind, and who aren't willing, and as well who aren't just being controversial for the sake of controversial, but are willing to be honest about stuff. And I wouldn't discourage that whatsoever. I probably would see maybe a little bit why Martin O'Neill was annoyed by it. He had essentially just lost his job, and now he's seen one of the players that he gave a cap to recently come out and criticise him, rightfully or wrongfully. That's up for yourself to decide. But I could probably see why he'd be a bit annoyed about it.
Yeah, so
he'd be annoyed in general.
Yeah, he probably is. He was probably just on a path of destruction. It's like,
and then you see this, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, do I send this angry? It's like on Twitter, do I send this angry tweet? Do I not? Do I cool down for a while? And
end up sending it.
O'Neill picked up the phone and rang him. So Tiger versus Phil tonight. Are you going to watch it?
No.
Well, what about this? Once you see this image, you're going to watch it. It's like an image from Breaking Bad after Walter White has made all that money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw this last night.
Here we go. It is Phil, again, being the absolute dad that he is, trying to look cool here with loads of wads of cash, pouting and doing that thing with his hands.
I want to see this, like,
can't do.
I want to see this stacked just like at the back of the green on the 18th. Although, actually, with the way these two guys are playing, this match is not going to the 18th.
Real. All right. Well, the fear of missing out that you're experiencing right now, it's real.
Yeah, Neil.
Phil has told me. Oh my God, I need to pay for this.
Did you know that FOMO stands for fear of missing out? Well, Phil Mickelson surely does. Here's Tiger with his big what I got. Tiger looks like you never know if Tiger's smiling for the sake of smiling or if he genuinely looks happy. Like that's the first time I've seen warmth in Tiger's eyes with that big stack of money. This is just like right up their alley. I'm actually really looking forward to this, not for the golf, which should be the most important thing, but for the coverage, for the on-course banter.
I don't want to go a bit like think of the children and social justice warrior, but isn't like just getting them to pose in front of the big stacks of money a bit vulgar?
It's grotesque, but it's beautifully grotesque. I love it. It's like, at least admit that you guys are extremely wealthy and you care a lot about money. I think you should just front up.
I could get behind this if it was the two best players in the world playing, or two of the best.
If it was Tiger against DJ or Justin Thomas or Jordan Spieth or Rory McIlroy,
yeah,
I'd probably kind of value it more as a competitive thing.
This is a great idea in 2005.
It's true, and I think McIlroy himself has actually come out this week to say, yeah, they're about 15 years too late with this idea. Fair enough.
It's like Pacquiao Mayweather, except even later than it should have been.
Yeah, well, like I am going to watch. It's going to be like watching Michael Scott in The Office, watching Phil Mickelson trying to actually throw some barbs at Tiger Woods. They're going to be so bad, but because of that, they're going to be so good. So I'll definitely be tuning in.
Let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I certainly will. Let's talk GA priorities, because Colin Fennelly's on the back page of the Irish Independent this morning. Cat star Fennelly hits back over wild geese complaining. So people aren't too happy with the idea of the wild geese tournament, which happened in Australia recently. Colin Fennelly says who cares? You know, this is our thing. We're giving up our own time. It's our own decision. It was my first time, probably all our first times on the Kilkenny team in Australia. I have cousins and family over there that I barely ever see, so it's absolutely fabulous that the GAA gave us that opportunity. The reason we don't get to go over there is because of hurling, and we want to stay at home and play, but the GAA gave us the opportunity, and it was fantastic. I totally agree with this. Like John Horan...
Yeah, the players are always going to be behind it. You know, it's a great thing. Like, it's a great thing for the players to be able to go over to like the other side of the world and show off the game that they love playing. You're going to be incredibly proud of yourself and incredibly proud that, you know, you're going to be able to wear your county jersey thousands of miles from home, showing off to everyone that this is the game that you play and they might never have seen before.
John Horan this week has said that this pays for itself and the Fenway Classic pays for itself. So there's no real financial downfall to this. And we've seen Michal Braiodi of the CPA coming out and giving out about this week. I would say that is a relevant argument to be made once the fixtures are in order, once, you know, this thing is actually scuppering things. The fixture calendar is so bad that this actually isn't actually making things worse. Like, these people are voluntarily saying, I want to give up part of my off-season. Like, anybody who has a big club game is going to stay at home. Yeah. Anybody who doesn't want to go can stay at home. This is an opportunity for people to go and see a bit of the world, have a bit of crack. The game isn't that important. And I don't see too many negatives with it. I don't think you can say the wild geese is a problem why the GA calendar is totally messed up. I think there are far deeper issues than that. So I think Colin Fennelly is right.
I think some of the frustration as well probably comes down to the coverage it got. You know, same with the Fenway Classic, that it's, you know, as much as TG Carr do amazing stuff week in, week out for the club game, that, you know, there still is a lot of resources pumped into this when there are big matches at home that probably aren't getting a look in.
Yeah,
and I'd say that's where the frustration lies for a lot of players. Probably just whether or not they are being forgotten, feeling like you're forgotten is probably an important thing for them.
We've had a big apology. It was, of course, Thanksgiving yesterday, and there was probably the creepiest video that has ever existed in the history of mankind that emerged. It was Patrice Evra sucking the toes of a chicken. He's apologised.
Yo, I made a video yesterday. It went crazy, went wild. It was just for Thanksgiving, you know. Some people find it funny, some people find it weird, some people find it disgusting. You know, we're all different, thanks God. But come on, I'm not a gangster. The real one is like Nurse said. You see the way he chop the meat? It's the real deal. Me, I just like cuddle, I just kiss the meat, you know. That's it. And yeah, I went too far when I...
That's very weird.
When I sucked the toes of the chicken. It was a little bit nasty. But come on. Now people wish me the salmonella. I know salmon, but apparently salmonella is a girl when she kisses you, you can die straight away or you can have the diarrhea for 10 years. And what about the vegan people, you know? I see vegan people in my garden crawling, eating all the grass, and I ain't say anything. Even sometimes they have the bell like the cow, ting, ting, ting. They eat everything, the flowers, the grass, even the tree now. We need tree. I love this game.
At least he's enjoying himself.
Yeah, at least he's enjoying himself.
Like, as disturbed as I was by the video, I'm not really sure what he's apologising for.
Well, for sucking the toes of a chicken, you've got to apologise for that.
It's but I mean, like, what he didn't necessarily harm or insult any other people. Like, maybe vegetarians or vegans might have been appalled by it, but that's just down to the fact that it was a dead animal. But, like, I'm not sure why he's apologising for, like, kissing a raw chicken. I'd really love to know, did he get sick at any point?
Is this millennialism gone too far? Have the snowflakes got offended? Is this why he's apologising, Neil? Is that what you're trying to say?
When I saw this the other day, I was just speechless.
But no reason to apologise, you say?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just being weird.
Embrace weirdness.
Exactly.
One last story for you about Owen the Bomber Liston. It's been widely reported this morning, actually. There had been some circulation of this story via WhatsApp earlier in the week. So last weekend, on the way back, boys were messing with Bomber Liston. So there was a stag party, I think. Was it David Moran? No, there wasn't a stag party. I don't know what it was. One of the lads from Kerry, anyway, were on a stag party, and Bomber Liston was there anyway. They're on the way back. They were messing with Bomber, calling his name and looking away. Bomber, Bomber, Bomber. Plane was turned around and police waiting on the runway. Bomber had to Google himself via some connection and cockpit to prove his alias, and Bomber flew home in the cockpit, which is absolutely hilarious. That is, like, I do wonder were the lads trying to bait the airport staff. I don't know. So the Indo story has gone up, and Bomber Liston was glad to say it came to nothing, which is all good. So we are going to go to Mark O'Shea. Mark O'Shea was joining Nathan on last night's Off the Ball. He's retired from club football altogether now, finishing up on Gaeltacht. Here he is in the plight of the club player.
Look, it's very difficult for the club player because club player can't book holidays because there might be games coming on, and also waiting for county teams to either get to finals or get knocked out. And if they get knocked out, you know that you're out in the next week or two. So from that point of view, it's very hard for the club player to try and organise stuff, and because he doesn't know when games are going to be put on. So that is a big drawback. So I think from the G, and then I suppose for the inter-county player, the other side of that is there's no close season, because when you're finished with your county, you're back playing with your club. I know inter-county players who are still playing club football, and they'll be back training with their county very shortly. So I think that's wrong, and it leads to burnouts and all of that. I mean, the big issue that I have, Nathan, is that the club scene, the Leinster, the Munster, the Connacht and the Ulster Club Championships will be played before Christmas. Yet it takes 2 months and 17 days to play 2 games, which I think is a farce. And what I've noticed as well with say, for example, down here, is that if the likes of a Dr. Croke's team advances to All-Ireland Club Final on St. Paddy's Day, most of the National League is finished at that stage. So if there is a player from a club doing well with his team, he's not going to get much of an opportunity for a run out with his inter-county team, because the National League is nearly over. The manager will have his team close enough to his 15 team in his head, and he's not really going to upset the apple cart. And I think that, so it's the club player that's playing and that's advancing that's suffering there as well. So I think that, fair enough, the GA have gone about their business well, and they've introduced the month of April as the month for the clubs. But I think they need to go a step further now, and I think that they need to, make the season shorter for the clubs. Why can't these All-Ireland Club Finals, junior, intermediate, senior, why can't they be finished before Christmas? There's no reason why they can't. We see the improvements in pitches in the last few years, and I think there's no reason why these competitions can't be finished before Christmas.
Yeah, excellent stuff there from Mark O'Shea. He was speaking to Nathan on last night's Off the Ball. You can watch the full thing back on youtube.com/Off the Ball. Jess Kelly, a very good morning to you.
How are you?
Happy Black Friday.
I know, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Is it?
Not really, no.
What is, for people who don't really understand, why does Black Friday exist?
It's another bit of American culture that we've just completely jumped on the bandwagon with and are running with. So it usually kind of marked the end of Thanksgiving. So as we know, Thanksgiving was yesterday. And so it's kind of the marking of the beginning of the American shopping for the holidays. And now our retailers have brought it. We've had it for the last few years, but I don't know if you guys have noticed in the last week or so, all the talk has been about Black Friday. All of the retailers started like a week ago hyping it up, drumming it up.
It's become a week event now at this point, really.
It's kind of 2 weeks, because you've got Black Friday, which is today, and then Cyber Monday, which is Monday. And what it's trying to do is, a lot of people would have got paid, from the 20th up until the 25th is usually when people get paid. So it's like, spend your dollar bills here.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about wearables and all of the good things for the sports person in your life. I'm not sure, what have you been looking at? Is there anything that's kind of caught your eye? We did this slot this time last year as well, and it's like, could we talk about the same things again? But actually technology has moved on to the point where it's like wearables have probably got a lot better in the space of those 12 months. Yeah, so the wearables is one thing, and to be honest, I think if you're going to get good value out of Black Friday, the best thing to get is like a big ticket item. So whether it is a console, a games console, like a really fancy pants TV, there's some really good deals. I was scanning around. So the best deal I've found so far is a Samsung 55-inch 4K Ultra HD HDR Smart LED TV, which is a lot of letters. But it was €1,000 and it's now down to $599 from Harvey Norman. I can tell you that television is worth getting. Samsung let me borrow it for the first week of the World Cup, and it is amazing. It's class, and it's down to, as I said, $599, which is really, really good. And so I think on stuff like that, stuff that is bonkers money, I don't think I could ever justify paying €1,000 for a TV. If you get it for £600, that is pretty good going. The thing to remember when you're buying these, always do your research. Never walk into a shop blind, because what will happen is you'll get bombarded by a salesperson who will then try and either upsell you, going, oh, well, this is only like €800.
that TV is a really, really good deal. If you go into a store, they might try and upsell you to something you don't want. The other thing to check out though is some bundle deals. So we all know, I don't know about the Samsung TV that you reviewed, but the sound quality can be a bit poor from some of these TVs. So see if they'll chuck in a soundbar or give you money off a soundbar so that you'll increase your sound output. But stuff like that is really, really good. The other deal that caught my eye is an LG 55-inch TV, and again that was €1,000 and it's down to 549. So they're just two deals that caught my eye. Littlewoods are doing stuff off games consoles as well. So if anybody is looking to get something like the Nintendo Switch, it was $414 and it's now down to $349, and you get games and all that kind of stuff. So they tend to bundle. There's skeptics out there who say these aren't actually, fantastic deals, and they're just bumping up the prices for months beforehand and then taking the prices down. I'm not that much of a skeptic. I think that there are good deals to be had once you know what you're looking for. A few people have been tweeting me going, it's not a bargain if it's not something you're going to use. I'm like, yeah, I kind of know that. But
it's fun.
Yeah, no, I think some people just take it all too seriously. Like, the fact of the matter is, if you need a new TV, if you're thinking of buying a new TV, why would you not go and buy it when there's like 400 or 500 quid off?
I don't think many people just decide one day, I'm going to buy a TV.
No, it's something that you'll have watched. Like, I know I bought a TV around this time last year, and it's one that I've been looking at. I'd done all of my research. I'd gone in and asked all of the questions. I'd read every review that ever existed, and then I bought it on Black Friday because there was money off it. So I think once you go in equipped with some form of knowledge and just don't get bombarded, then it's good. The thing I would urge people to be cautious of are signing up to services that will say, if you sign up, you get the first 3 months at a discounted price, and then after that time, it goes up to a ridiculous figure. So always reading the T's and C's. But like, if you want a coffee machine or a telly or a games console, the wearables that you mentioned, I'm kind of skeptical about the buying wearables, particularly after the bit that myself, yourself and Jared did last year, because I kind of realised as I walked out of the studio, like, they're serious money. I think one of you were wearing the one that was 500 quid.
Not me.
No, and I don't think I got it either. It was probably Jared. But like, there's so much money, and unless you are training for a marathon or training like consistently and you need all of that information, again, I just couldn't justify spending that kind of money. Another thing to be wary of is that not all of the wearables can measure the same thing. So there's a colleague of ours who was giving out because he bought a wearable, but it won't measure his reps in the gym. Again, you can clearly tell.
I got no relation to that.
It's something to do with.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I took his word for it too. There are other ones that, if swimming is part of your exercise, not all of them are waterproof, and so you can't wear them all in. So again, make sure you do your homework. Research one that will tick all the boxes for you. Don't get the one that has the most amount of money off, because yes, it could be a good price, but if it's not what you want, then it's not actually that great a deal.
So I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. For people with the big sports fans in their family or in their friends group, it is Black Friday, like the humongous value to be got, as you said, on technology. What are you recommending? Myself and Neil have already recommended the sports books. So technology-wise, what are you recommending?
Okay, so do you know what there's so much out there. Again, it depends on your budget. When it comes to technology, a lot of the tech stuff is super expensive. So, just be mindful of that. There are good deals to be had when it comes to laptops and tablets, for example. Like there's, again, a really good Lenovo laptop. It's 11.6 inches, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, and it's down to €198.
Right.
So that is a pretty good deal. So for a decent laptop, has good spec. Lenovo is a good brand. For less than 200 quid, you could be getting a good laptop. There are also some really small accessories. Like, have you heard of the Bluetooth Tile? So it's a little keyring that you can put onto your keys. It pairs with your phone, and if you lose your keys, you can basically call your keys and find them. Super handy. There's money off those. Brown Thomas also have a range. They're called Chipolo, which is a similar thing again, so you can call your keys. They are really good gifts. That they're in around 35 quid if memory serves. So small things like that you can do quite well on. But as I said, for me, the value with Black Friday and Cyber Monday comes from the big items. So whether it is a Dyson, so a lot of people like Dyson vacuum cleaners, or before. You know, the big fan that everyone bought during the heat wave? Like, the sales of those
there was one in here.
They're amazing.
There was one in here and it went missing, but anyway, that's a different story.
It was your freebie, wasn't it?
No, it was actually, anyway, we won't go into that. Sorry, Dyson, again. But anyway, no, but so there's money off those big things. But again, just do your research. We are doing a Black Friday special this week on Tech Talk. So if anyone does have any questions.
7 o'clock on Sunday, news talk?
Or 6 o'clock if you want to be accurate. Not
or 6 o'clock, sorry. No 4:30 game in Premier League this week. No.
Okay, no. But I'll also, just to run down not tech specific deals that are out there at the moment. Pygmalion are offering 20% off food and drinks this Friday. Eureka.ie and hpshop.ie are offering up to 35% off. Board Gosh Energy are offering 25% off Hive products. Virgin Media has a whole host of deals as well. So it's not just on tech products. You can get money off services, off, you know, food and drink. The stuff like that, the Hive Home, I don't know if we spoke about this before, but you can basically make your home a smart home without having to spend a hell of a lot of money. You can buy a little hub and it'll then talk to your light bulbs, to your plugs, to everything. So I have a Google Home at home. So when I come home every day, I can just say, hey Google, turn on the lights, and it can do all of that. So if you were looking for something, you know, you mentioned for a family member for Christmas or whatever, the Hive Hub and the sets of products are really, really good value. So if you're a Board Gosh customer, you can get that, or you can just buy them independently. I'm not, and I just have them all in my home.
Good stuff. Anything else? Sorry, like, is there any advice in terms of when to go? It's like 9:15. Have you already missed the boat? Has the crush when the automatic doors opened already happened and everything's gone?
You're mad for a bit of hype, aren't you?
Of
No.
course I am. It's Black Friday. I'm buzzed for this.
I am a desk shopper, so just do it from your desk. The thing that I will urge people, obviously stay safe online, right? So don't buy from a website that doesn't have the little lock or that doesn't have HTTPS. The S will signify if it's secure. Don't, you know, on Facebook you'll see these ads of like a laptop for €6 and you click through the link and then it's a scam. Just be quite smart with where you're buying. Also, if you're buying from the US or from outside of Europe, basically remember that you could be stung with tax and customs and all that stuff, which nobody wants to do. So just be smart about it, and also make sure that you get it in time for Christmas if you're buying gifts online, because
that was okay though, right?
Now is okay, but like in the next 2 weeks or so, you'll be hard pressed to get it in time for Christmas.
Okay, good stuff. Well, happy shopping out there to everybody. I'll personally be waiting until the 23rd of December, 24th maybe if I'm unlucky.
There's Sunday, like. Should be some good Premier League that day.
Yeah, 24th, definitely then. Jess Kelly, thanks a million. Tech Talk, 6 o'clock every single Sunday, except for when there's a half-hour Premier League game. Podcasts as well.
Yeah.
Off the ball, or newstalk.com, and you can find the Tech Talk podcast there. So thanks to Jess, Neil, Darren for popping in this morning. You can catch everything back on our YouTube channel or on the podcast. You can watch us back on Facebook or on Twitter as well. Remember to click the subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. You can keep an eye out on Off the Ball channels across the day for all your sport. Friday night racing, amongst other things, coming up a little bit later on. Off the Ball is back in your radios then tonight from 7 o'clock with Ger and the lads. We're back on Monday morning from 7:45 a.m. We'll chat to you then. Bye-bye for now.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.